and it's just, and I don't care one way or the other. Two definitions in the ordinance for surface drainage and subsurface drainage. I felt that they were very strong definitions, but they didn't exist anywhere into the piece. They were specifically to stormwater standards. So we have off-site restrictions, but do not mention anything about on-site restrictions. So the only place they could live is in something like this, where they have to be designed. So in this text, a verification is needed to prove that the projects have adequately designed surface drainage and subsurface drainage systems to manage storm drainage collection throughout the property, both upstream and downstream of the stormwater detention facility.
So I think where this comes into play is if you have say you have a subdivision,
Yep.
multiple detention ponds, and you have
Correct.
emergency spillways.
Yep.
The outlet gets blocked and there's a spillway.
Yeah, how it works.
That there is a path for it to get to the next structure downstream
Yes,
that doesn't have a house in the way,
correct.
so that the water doesn't go through the living room.
It's desirable, right?
Yes.
Yes, that is the mindset, is that, okay, that would be in that vein that we're looking at doing that. And in the past, we've looked, especially on like major subdivisions, the concept that every lot has to have some access to drainage versus drainage only in the streets has caused a lot of problems. So this would make that a discussion, a bit. Does every lot have a swale, or does every lot have a tile? How is that working for surface or subsurface drainage within the parcel itself?
It seems like a lot of developments, there's the development and there's a detention pond.
Yeah,
And it goes to a ditch.
Yeah.
There's nothing built downstream.
yep, correct. So in that,
More and more, it seems like some of these residential, they're doing staged detention
Yep.
ponds, that could become an issue.
Mhm.
So,
So we felt in this condition that we didn't want to get rid of the definitions for surface drainage and subsurface drainage. They don't know why they weren't used in the ordinance in the past, but this is kind of their landing spot, so work through this text, to put that together. So,
This would be in addition to the ordinance.
yeah, so this would be a new segment of the stormwater section
So
specifically.
it's a brand new number 4.
Yep, correct.
I thought they already did this.
Yeah, and in a way, it's just we're not
I think
using.
A lot of times when we review it, the Plat committee.
Yeah.
we talk about it.
Right, that's what I was thinking, because
It may not
I,
have been in black and white that it was
Yeah, that
I
they
see.
have to have a.
but you wouldn't let it go through unless they did it right anyway.
I mean,
It's part of their drainage
something we're
report,
looking at.
yeah.
Right.
It's part of the drainage report.
It's just good to have it
How it's
It's good
officially.
to have it right.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, I like it.
Other than that is the gist of the ordinance amendments. So I don't have anything more than
Okay.
that to go through. Is there any questions anybody has?
For the board first.
Yeah.
It's definitely needed. A lot of the things that you struck out were
We
defined.
really do want it, I know it's a large document, and
It ain't thin.
yeah, we got larger. Obviously, oddly enough, not changing the font size, but making things bolder, well, bold words added, yeah, it's pushed the document wider.
I can relate.
Is there any other board questions? Otherwise, would open it up for public comment. if
Yeah.
anybody.
Board members, you good? Everybody good? Public, would you like to make any comments to this? Are you still awake out there?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a little big
I'll
work.
take that feedback also.
Appreciate that. Okay, last chance. I don't want to close it too quick this time. I'm here for you. All right, we'll close the public section of that. What's next, Mike?
Okay. All right, so next update for the Vision 2035 Comprehensive Plan progress. So our big update is the Veritas Group did produce a rough draft document of the Wells County Master Plan, which would be the natural second part of the Vision 2035 document. If you remember in the past, as far as the town of Zanesville did a pilot project. The town of Markle also with Region 3A has done a comprehensive or a master plan review. So this document goal is to have to bring everybody up to the same spot that they are. And then put together also some countywide and rural area goals and aspirations. So on our website, sorry you have to look at my chin, but you see the Wells County Master Plan draft. It's all out there. Due to document size and the fact that people may be interested more in one section or another, we did break them out into their parts. So you have the executive summary, introduction, comparison, data, and community engagement part. So if you want to see the results and the information that was pulled from the community surveys, which we've had available on the website in the past, but you can see how those things were all put together.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
Maybe
yes,
not a question, but, a question, it might help people that are looking at this document. So, in those, there's like a survey that was done, questionnaire, and then it talks about infrastructure or whatever. And there's a bunch of words,
yes.
some are bigger than others.
Yep.
Can you pull one of those up and can you explain what
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
or how to interpret it?
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah. So in this process, if you have used SurveyMonkey or another public survey, yep, there we go. Hey, all right. So part of the results that you get when you do a public survey is, I would define this as kind of an AI generated common word in the written responses. So in each of the segments, there was a public comment where you typed in a response. And what this did is the number one word listed in all of these was farm. And then you can see, and as they shrink down in size, that is as it shrinks down. So you see house, no solar, come properly, people, well, home, more, county, family, go through that. You can see it's interesting to look at because it's a way to go through all of the comments and find out what the common pieces are.
Instead of a pie chart.
Yeah, where you could read all of it.
Whatever
Yes.
the big word is, that's
Yep.
the one that popped up the most.
Correct. So in that is what, it gives a perspective to what we're looking at. Thank you for asking that.
Not everybody has seen one of those.
Yes,
and
yep,
Understand
yeah,
what.
what you're actually seeing there. Yes, word frequency.
Good for the visual people.
Yes, it is, yeah. It's like, what is the actual,
Forget the percentage.
yeah, what is the actual thing that people said about the community? And then, so the next thing, part 2 is the countywide segment. So I'm gonna pull that one up just to show you. a part of it, and then everything else is basically broke down the same way. Okay. So, in the document, the kind of key takeaways are these strategies, responsibilities, funding, costs, priority, timeline piece. So in the master plan part, we wanted actionable things. So in here, it talks about things that we could look at doing, who would be responsible for doing those things, the people around the table having that discussion, the potential funding sources that could be utilized, a cost ranking from expensive to inexpensive, priority, high, medium, low, and potential timeline, how long to look at some of these things. Where we're at in the rough draft, most of all of that is up for discussion. So from the steering committee's mindset, the timeline, the priority, these things are going to get fine-tuned before it gets anywhere past this point. So the understanding, that is one of the parts.
So this,
Yeah,
the way it is right now was fairness for.
yes,
Like,
looking
they
at,
thought
yes.
that they-
Yep, based off of the public comments, surveys,
Their
our public
interpretation.
Their
meetings.
interpretation
Yep,
of the right.
where they fell. When it comes to what will be put out for adoption, these things may look different.
Because the steering committee
The steering committee and other parties are going to get a chance to look at that. The
That's good.
other piece, I wanna. Okay, these vision principles. So in the process, what the steering committee and Veritas Group have really pulled out, and I can zoom in a little bit here because they fit well, is when we're making decisions at the plan commission level, at city council level, at county commissioner, county council, town boards levels, schools, libraries, anybody that is making decisions across the county, that we would have these vision principles. So they are kind of put together into packets. So the county-wide vision principles, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as listed there, are the vision principles that are up at the top for everybody. So City of Bluffton, Ossian, everybody. Then as you go into the specific segments, there's vision principles underneath them. So you have the top, then you have vision principles for rural areas, Bluffton, Ossian, everybody else. So you have the top big ones, then you have more focused vision principles, and these are the measuring sticks. So if we're making, the goal of this master plan is if we are making a decision, one of these vision principles should be part of why we're doing it. So if we're making a decision and it doesn't hit on any of the vision principles, probably shouldn't happen. But if it is moving one or two of them, then that is a reason for pushing it to the next level. So in that mindset, that's what we would be looking at. So these kind of pillars or principles piece, that is kind of the background to what we're looking at. Yeah, exactly. Like why are we looking at doing this specific thing? Okay, that is what we're shooting for. So if you just wanted to spend time and look at the vision principles for each segment to better understand what those are, that would be you would learn much of what the rest of the master plan is about. So looking at those pieces, you could really get an idea. So each of the segments has these vision principles. And just envision that the county-wide one is on top with everything else fitting below. So I don't intend
Who came
to.
up with those?
So that was so these vision principles were vetted both with the steering committee with Veritas Group team and with other groups that have reviewed the document so far. So there's been multiple pieces to that, and they were put together based off the survey results and our community meeting results. Which, as far as master planning processes across the state, I would like to give props to everybody that answered the survey. We well overperformed what communities normally get as far as survey results. We did great. So thank you for everybody that took a chance to fill out the master plan survey and everything that we've been doing. Because that really did. And then we had really good turnouts across the board at our community meetings. So Veritas Group went to every incorporated town and had a community meeting, and they were really strong. And so we're really excited about what came out of that, and I feel that that will be the true soul of what things are, giving every community that hadn't created a master plan already a chance to put their best foot forward. The town of Zanesville got to do that right off the bat and really it showed up, and they took pride around what they did. And I think that Pinedo and Veracruz, Uniondale, and Austin and Bluffton, all of them can come with that same pride from what they worked to get this done. So we don't have any general timeline to that, to when it would come forward, but would state that we're in the process of going through the document in detail. So if somebody has any comments or suggestions, we are collecting them at the Plan Commission office, and we are moving them up the ladder to the steering committee and to Veritas Group for consideration. You also take a moment to look at the appendix maps that help to show some of the suggestions. One of the parts of the master plan is that we wanted it to be a zoomed-in version of the Vision 2035 plan, so that there were actual objectionable project concepts and locations to try to do them in the document. So they will be both listed in the community report for Pinedo, and then also in the actual mapping section in the appendix as well. So you can see all the pieces, zoning, land use. One of the interesting things we pulled out through tax information is the vacant parcels. That was a big discussion, especially in our incorporated towns. Potential development without putting any new infrastructure or roads in was a big piece of that. So we took a look at that. Doesn't mean that those properties are for sale, just means that there's no improvements on them. So that if they could look and say how many potential homes could be built without doing anything else. That, I'd open up if there's any questions in regards to the master plan process.
Who, the steering committee, is that like a representative from each of the towns? And
Yeah, so there are 2 members from each community.
Okay.
Who appoints those?
Each legislative body did that. Yep.
And how many would there be on average in a meeting? Like how many members are on the steering committee?
And so we would have,
Rough.
well, there's 7 jurisdictions, so 14 plus 5 other people or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so close to 20.
Yeah, 20, so.
Attendance wise,
And pretty good.
It is
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to have one to really look at some of these details here in the next couple weeks, hopefully. So we're working on getting that scheduled, and then we can have a little bit better idea about when this would go to the next level.
I did see heavy advertisement for the survey on several platforms and
Yep.
heard by word of mouth from people, so I was pleased to see with more
Yeah.
outreach on that than what had been given
Mm-hmm.
in some other areas.
Yeah. Is there anybody in the public has any comment?
Public comment?
Good evening. My name's Mike Grant. I'm the operations manager for the town of Markle. I had reached out to Mr. Lotzenheiser back in 2022 when this first started to develop and expressed that we would like to be a part of this vision plan. I know that we did have a master plan done with Region 3A. Markle's unique in the fact that it's split in between two counties. And sometimes that kind of creates a little bit of a gray area. Should we fund something over here because it could overlap on county lines? Our fear is if we're not represented within this, we're just going to lose, we're going to get lost in the shuffle, so to speak. If we're not included in name, we're just afraid it's just going to be a lost generalization. I think our inclusion would strengthen the goals here. So I guess I'm here in a way to see if there's a way we could collaborate to include Markle in this and not just.
So are you saying currently Markle is not included in this study, is that?
Correct.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, we have passed over a couple times, we've sent along the Markle's plan to them, to the Veritas team to review. And looking at this recently, kind of going back over, there's some action items on your plan that involve this board. So, and working with Wells County. So there's certain things like that that really make sense to be in both documents. Like, oh yeah, this is also an action item, we should be working
So
in
you
that
guys,
case. Yeah.
through another grant or through somebody else, you guys did a master plan for Markle,
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
however long ago?
Yeah.
How long
A
ago?
couple of years ago. It was about the 22 timeframe, about the
Yeah.
same time this was all kind of starting to develop.
And what consultant?
We used Region 3A to
Okay, that
help
was a different
pilot.
consultant.
Correct.
Yeah. It's their mark.
So is this in replacing of that, or just in addition to, like, for the Markle master plan, to be considered?
We would be
amongst
looking at
that?
ways to bring the Markle master plan into the document, like to
Okay.
make the connections
So
together so that,
in addition,
yeah.
And I guess I'm gonna, are you guys asking to have representation on the steering committee? And if so, who makes that decision of, it's not something we decide.
Yeah, I mean,
Who makes that decision,
Yeah.
I guess? Or is
In
that?
that
who
case-
asks?
Ideally, we would very much like to be a part of that process.
Yeah.
Who
We would,
makes that
we would
decision?
make that happen.
The steering committee
Yeah.
itself?
Yeah, we would
Okay.
make that happen. So you'd be in the next meeting, right?
So,
And it,
that's fair. That's what we're asking for. Just
And it-
we can,
consistent that it'd be you and, I think he left a little.
yeah, Matt had to leave.
Yes,
He's our
yeah.
council president. Yes.
That we would, at least for right now, unless you decide to have somebody else on it.
Sure. Most likely it would be Matt and I.
Okay. Nope.
so it wasn't that, the intention was not to exclude them, but
Yeah.
there was assumptions or understandings that they had a master plan.
Yeah, so the way it was put out, so they have to understand, so the goal, the Wells County Community Foundation wanted each community to have a master plan. They set that as one of their goals for funding. And the way it started, as far as the jurisdictions that we work with directly at area plan commission level, town of Zanesville did their own off the bat with Abermarsh and worked through that process. So we had talked about that as that was happening here. Got updates along the way until they got it to the adoption process. So when that was done, when we were doing the Vision 2035 plan, we specifically said that one of the things we wanted to happen was that each community have a master plan. So at that time, economic development put out for an RFQ to help get everybody else that hadn't done one yet into a master plan. So, and came up with this concept of doing a Wells County master plan with individual segments focused on each of the communities. So what we would look at in the final document is that Zanesville's in Markle would kind of live as if they were in the first part, but their documents would be not in it. But there would be tie-in, like things that.
Because they were done.
Because they already exist. So, but the thing is, we don't want to, we don't want to put anything in there that's in conflict. That's a big part. And then we do want to make sure that we're pursuing things that make sense, that will have to cross jurisdictions. Knowing fully that in Markle's case, when you annex, we are out of it, kind of. But we could our board can make decisions that could create roadblocks towards that. Say if we allow, a small rural housing subdivision between that and the next developable farm ground, there could be growth pattern issues or something to that effect, so.
So the goal was, everybody have a master plan, whether
Yep.
you participate in one or do your own.
Yes.
You-
Yep.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
why
and
Markle and Zanesville are not.
And the
on.
reason why they're like in that grouping, one, because Region 3, I think they did like Warren and
Yes.
other communities all together. There was a bulk project there. And then we already done the Zanesville one, so it was like, what do we do to get everything else taken care of? So, yeah, we definitely will bring you guys in on the next couple meetings that we'll have. Be a lot of conversations about.
Approved.
All right, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Come on up.
Hello, all. My name's Brandon Harnish. I know most of you, not all of you. I wanted to just come here tonight and maybe get the ball rolling on or at least start a conversation about revising the existing solar ordinance for utility scale development. Looking at the new vision plan that you had linked up there, particularly under rural areas. I guess my thought is that it might be time, after the last year of development, just public opinion, this body voted against a recommendation for a utility scale solar development, that to sort of bring the existing ordinance into some consistency with the vision plan here. I'm just looking at it, but preserving agricultural integrity and open space is a high priority in the plan. Protecting farm ground and agricultural resources, that's a high priority in the plan. And there are some action items in the executive summary that encourage the board to take a look at new or updated ordinances for solar and wind projects. And so I just wanted to maybe put that on the radar of the APC. Now might be the time to just take a look at that, specifically to really eliminate development for large-scale solar. We're talking hundreds or thousands of acres, large-scale utility-style solar development. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks for
And
listening.
I'm not to find it quickly, but the master plan actually does talk about some sort of community process in regards to addressing that issue. I think it calls for an energy review board to be put together to talk about those things.
So, since you brought it up, I have some thoughts. And I was asked to be a speaker at the AIC Legislative Conference on this very topic. And I'm gonna say the exact same thing that I did at that presentation. I think we have three choices. model guidelines, we kind of do that. We either leave things the same, or option two is we take a stand and we say, community doesn't want it. It's just not a permitted use. Then we rip the Band-Aid off and we just get it over. The third option is we have, and this is gonna be the toughest one, is we really sit down and we really have an adult conversation about a bigger picture thing of power and all that stuff in the state of Indiana, in the eastern third of the country. Before we make a decision, like I say, I think there's three options, but before we make a decision, I would recommend that everybody go on the internet, and there was a letter that went from the president or the chief executive officer of PJM, which is the grid operator for this whole part of the country, basically from eastern Indiana all the way to the ocean. I think that letter was dated sometime in December of 2024. It talks about the electric demand and what that demand is for the grid, for the PJM grid in that area, and some things that need to happen. I would read that report first, and then let's have a conversation about what we want to do. But like I said, I think we basically have three options. We either leave it the same, we just say, no, we're not gonna do it. It's not a permitted use, we're gonna quit leading the company on, we're gonna quit taking their money, and we're gonna quit having their scholarships and buying stuff at the 4-H fair. We're just gonna say, hey, we don't want you here, period. Or we really sit down and we really have a good conversation about what that solar ordinance needs to look like, and not try to outthink the companies. Because I think that's what Huntington County just tried to do, is trying to say, oh, we have an ordinance, but we're making it so restricted that we can't really build here. Well, like I said, just rip the Band-Aid off and say it's not a permitted use. If that's what you really want, then that's what you need to do. Wait a minute, folks. This isn't a high school pep rally. I'm just saying, this is a public, professional meeting, and I'm just saying that that's what we've got to do in this community. Period.
So there is one thing, so we sat through a briefing, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. We buy our power from, in the city, we buy it from a wholesaler. And the wholesaler basically came to us and said, hey, when your contract is up, which is 2030,
Your price is going up.
your price is gonna double. And I'm not a proponent of large-scale solar on farm ground per se, because I don't think solar is a great technology in terms of efficiency and reliability. If you look at the case studies, I mean, there's some parts of the country where it makes sense. I don't know that it makes sense here, and it's not my wheelhouse, but I've done a little bit of reading on it. We're gonna have to do something. The other issue is that they specifically said, and that letter very much refers to, I think, what you're talking about, is we don't have the capacity to get the demand where it needs to go. And even if we started now, it would take 30 years to get the infrastructure built out to even ramp up the power capacity. They're in rough shape, and our systems are antiquated. Somebody's got to pay. It's gonna be us. Now, I don't know what it looks like, but we're gonna have to do something. I mean, that was the takeaway when we walked out of that briefing. It was like, I had no idea that this was, that, you know, they literally said double.
So a few years ago, 2 years ago now, I think it was, I was at a meeting, it was at MISO, which is the grid operator for basically Huntington County and the West, clear out to the middle of the country. One of their main offices, they have 3 actual operations center in case of tornado hits. 2 of them, they can still operate. There's a lot of redundancy built into their system. Sure. It's in Noblesville. Went to a meeting there, and I got to hear from the Duke Energy, the AEP, and the REMCs, and everybody, what their contingency plans are. You know, if we don't have enough power, they have plans. None of them are great.
Rolling blackouts.
Well, that's far. They don't call it a rolling blackout. It's a manual shedding of demand.
Call it whatever you want.
Yeah, it's a rolling blackout. That's what it is. The first option is they ask you to voluntarily, conserve power. That's the first Second option is they reduce the voltage a little bit. That actually saves them some power. If you're running certain types of equipment, it's a little bit hard on it, but it happens. That's kind of just shy of a brownout. The next option is the blackout, rolling blackouts. That's another option. And then the fourth one is, oh, we are connected to some of these other grids, and we can buy power from those other grids. And it costs about 4 times what it costs us right now. So if you're a customer of AEP, which I am, probably a lot of people in here, customer of AEP, they've already put the smart meter on, and if they go to the IURC, and I have no doubt that they will do this in the near future, if they go to the IURC and they ask for peak demand, power, and rates, they will get it. And the way they will make us curb our electricity use is by our checkbook. And I have a sister-in-law who lives in Arizona. I was out there this past summer. The electricity goes from 17 cents a kilowatt hour to almost $2 for about 4 hours out of the day. The 4 hours out of the day starts at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and goes till 7. The time when you come home, you want to cook supper, and you want to do laundry, and you want to watch TV and watch the news and all that stuff, you're paying almost $2 a kilowatt hour. So that technology already exists here to be able to do that. They just haven't went through the IURC to start through. But that's the fourth alternative, is we'll force you to cut back on your power usage, or you'll pay dearly for it. So, like I said, I'm not pro-solar, I'm not anti-solar, I'm not pro-wind, I'm not anti-wind. You can burn tires for all I care to make my power, as long as I can afford it and it comes on when I get home. That's all I care. I think everybody needs to read that report and see from the company that actually they're the air traffic controller of power generation in this whole part of the country. And they can make it work. They've made it work for years now. And they figured out how to make solar and wind and natural gas and nuclear and coal and all that work. So I think they know more about it than I do. But I would read that letter and see what that guy had to say about this whole part of the country and how close we are on demand versus power supplies.
Will you submit that letter, Jared?
So you said it was PJM?
PJM.
Okay.
It was back in December is when that letter came out. But read it,
Yep.
and then make an educated decision of the direction we want to go, is all I ask.
Just to clarify, wasn't asking for a decision tonight.
No,
Anything like
no,
that.
you're
I'm
no.
not
It's fair.
saying we need to make a decision. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is we have basically 3 decisions that we can make, one of 3. We need to make an educated decision. We need to make an informed decision. And we need to make a decision that is good for our kids and our grandkids and everybody, not just us right now today. And I don't know what that looks like. But you've said it on those meetings, and it changes your mindset when you hear
does.
the contingency plans. I will tell you.
It does. It's a little frightening.
It is.
And most people don't know. And there again, not a big flag waver for solar, wind, or anything. I think there are better solutions out there technologically. We're just being held back from some of them, and some of them just aren't fully developed yet. But we're quickly sliding into a curve that we can't control the car. In 5 years, it's going to look pretty different. And
In 2 years, it's going to look different. If their projections of
If-
what demand are and all that is right, if that's correct, things are going to look different in 2 years.
All
not
right.
to be a Debbie Downer.
No, I
Thanks, guys.
Aren't y'all glad you came to the meeting tonight? Anybody else from the public?
if I were to make that, if I would send you that email or an
Yeah.
email with that letter, would you want to put it on the website?
Yep,
Make it easy
absolutely.
to do?
Yep, we sure
I'm
would.
glad to share.
Yeah, we will do that. That'd be great. Yeah.
So, I'm Michelle Bowman, Craigville, Indiana. we had a company that was going to want to come in and put solar right down the road from me. I'd be looking at it every day. Thank goodness, we got news last week that they've pulled out. They've decided, because of the public opinion being so against it, they weren't willing to fight us anymore on it. So I'm from the northern part of the county, so that was great news for us. I'm still in the fight for the southern part of the county, because option 2 that you gave us is what we want. You know,
Right now, I think that's what we all think.
yeah, no, I know that's what we want. There are better energy sources out there than solar and wind. Nuclear is one. The footprint is smaller. It just makes sense, more sense. And we're hoping now that they've pulled the subsidies from these companies, that they will be more willing to back off and not push so hard. The survey that was done in this county years ago, however many years it was overwhelmingly against wanting solar in this county. Overwhelmingly against it. So we need to pay attention what the people of the county want, the majority wants. If anybody watched the news or listened to anything, you see what happened in Spain and Portugal. They went to 100% solar grid, and they had major blackouts just this last week. They were freaking out because they had nothing, no power. That was with all solar, which is what was getting pushed. So solar and wind is not good. We don't live in the part of the country that it really makes a lot of sense as far as when you look at our daylight hours, which is what solar takes. We just really need to think about it again. There's a lot of counties fighting the same thing. I'm a big believer in, I know this Google data center up here is going to take a tremendous amount of power. If they want to put in a data center, let them put solar and wind on their property and build their own facility to supply their power. That's my feeling on it.
But that kind of comes into the question, like, if you do that, are you okay with 1,000 acres of solar?
If it's on, if it's attached to what they have, because they've already got the property. Up there.
That's the question.
I'm not against solar. If you want to put it for your own use on non-tillable farm, non-tillable ground, go for it. Or put it on your house, I don't care. Put it on your barns, I don't care. But I am against putting it on good tillable farm ground. Period.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'll give you another little statistic. And I agree, nuclear is the smallest footprint, probably one of the cleanest ways to generate power. Does anyone know when the last permit from the federal government to build a nuclear plant was issued in the United States?
15 years ago. Not close?
1996.
It's a process. It's a long process.
I don't think that is the short-term fix.
That's the one that, not in my backyard, no matter where they're gonna put it.
Well, so the legislature this year made it to where we don't have any say in it at the local level, so.
But the technology has changed significantly.
I will agree.
They now have reactors that can't melt down. It's a different process.
I will agree.
And it's just a different ballgame.
It's a different ballgame. I don't think it's a short-term solution.
Sure, 100%.
Currently, most of our electric generation in this area that we're using natural gas, over half of it.
And we have a lot of that.
That we're getting a lot more natural gas generation than nuclear. You can build those a lot faster too.
And that, it lies the great question, if a nuclear power plant was built on the Roush Reservoir for its cooling station or on the Wabash River, We okay with that?
But all 9 feet stopped.
Did it? It should restart. It should have restarted. But that's the question, like, is there any power production that we really want? And what does that look like? Because if somebody came in and said they wanted to double the size of the gas peaking plant or put a new one in somewhere, or, one of these, technology expands quickly and a small modular nuclear reactor that the state has spent all this time on comes to be a reality and they want to put one in the industrial park. Like, where do we land on this greater discussion? Because we need to know where the community sits on all of it. And I know some people are like, oh, nuclear, but are you really going to be okay if nuclear is sitting on the Wabash River here in Bluffton?
At the intersection of Wayne and
Yeah,
Washington Street.
yeah, just sitting right there. That's
So
the
it's not
question,
just-
yeah.
It's not black and white, yes or no.
It's a big,
You get towards the
conversation,
weeds
yeah.
just to make sure that we can consider all of the contributing
Yeah.
factors to help us form our decision.
because if at the end of the day, Wells County needs power, we're gonna have to get it from somewhere. And it's gonna be somewhere potentially in Wells County. What it is, it may be technology we don't even know exists yet. But something's gonna happen. Yeah.
It's still not working.
That's all right, I don't have to be on record.
It says it is. Yeah.
Well, my question
Could
is.
could you state your name
Oh, sorry.
to the board,
Sorry about
please?
that. My name is Tabby Fate. I live in Southern Wells County,
Thank
and
you.
the solar panels will be going around me. And I do have a nice property. I mean, I know a lot of people say, I have a nice pond that we like to go back and enjoy and they will be all around that. And I don't like the fact of having it. But what I have to say, I mean, who is this guy that put this article out? Is he like a higher up professional or something that
He is
knows?
the general manager, the chief executive officer of PJM. They're the people that run the
Yeah.
transmission.
About a third of the United States.
About a third of the United States.
Well, I mean, my opinion on that is you're going to have a lot of professionals have different ideas. It's just like when you
He's not, and I want you to understand, this letter is not saying it should be solar, it should be wind.
No, I know,
It's not saying that.
I know,
It's saying, here's how close we are
yeah.
on supply and demand.
To needing something different.
We've
Yeah.
got to do something.
Oh, I know, I understand that.
That's what it says.
But I mean, I'm sure they've been saying that for years, saying that.
no,
They haven't?
this is-
Okay,
No.
yeah.
You really need to look into it because these people are saying our grid is out of capacity, we're running out of time, and y'all are gonna write a much bigger check real soon. That's what they're saying. They're not saying how you pay for the power
Yeah.
that generates it. It's coming. Our
I get
rates are
that.
gonna double.
But when you look at it this way, is you take good farm ground, we're gonna start running out,
This isn't
maybe
a farm
out
ground
soon.
issue. This is not what we're saying.
Well, no, I agree. If you want to put them somewhere, don't use up good farm ground is what I'm saying to put them. I mean, there's places that we don't get, that can't be farmed or whatever, look into places like that instead of taking good farm ground.
I understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
necessarily. I'm just saying our power situation's dire.
No, well, I'd rather have food than, power. I could live like an Amish person. I'm just saying, I could. But, you can't.
No.
That's all I got. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's something we're gonna solve tonight.
I know, but I'm just saying. But, I mean, I think a lot of people would look at it differently, though, if it was all the way around their house. A lot of people would look at it differently. I mean, I understand we do need power. I understand that. But if it was all around your house, you would look at it differently. Everybody, just like those people that didn't want the subdivision in, I live in the country for a reason, I don't want to, I go hunting, I fishing, whatever, and it's going to be all around my pond and my house, and I have 37 acres that, that the reason I bought it is because it's out in the country, you know, and so.
And that's the beauty of democracy, of why this exists, is that you have the right to come forward and speak that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that we proved, we heard, there were
Yeah.
many of us who went into that paddlefish meeting who had one opinion, and then because we were open and hearing, saying, yeah, I didn't think about that, or I didn't think about that. I just asked that that be on both sides as well,
Yeah, yeah,
because that's the answer.
yeah.
It's not us against you.
Well, like my neighbor, he's gonna have it like 100% around his house. He just built a new house, and I'm like, geez, you build a new home to be surrounded by these, that would,
Well, like you said, the subsidies aren't there,
yeah,
so will that deter
hopefully,
them?
yeah. Well, I just want you guys to know that, you know, we're still here. I mean, we started slipping off a little. We just wanted to, you know, that we are still here and we're still, you know, on favor for it, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Megan again, on 400. So I'm just gonna speak on, like you were talking about, the long-term versus the short-term. As far as solar goes, that is long-term, because once you put that in, that farm ground will never be able to go back to use for agriculture, never. Never, not since, you know, not until I die and my kids die and their kids die. That's, I mean, really. Because there's going to be so much left over. It's 40 years, usually, is when the contract. And then when they pull that up, they don't replace the topsoil. They don't replace anything. It's going to take so long for that ground to recover, to even remotely be used for farming ever again. Now, that's long, long term. So if you compare that to, you know, the footprint as far as thousands upon thousands of acres of solar panels versus a very small, you know, portion of property with a retention for, you know, say nuclear, that's still going to be better than, you know, not being able to ever put solar or never ever be able to farm that ground ever again. Because you're losing that forever versus, you know, that, you know, nuclear or even, I mean, heck, we have a lot of water here. We could do, you know, hydro more easily than we could solar here, honestly. It'd make more sense. Just putting that out there.
I'll try to make it short. Bart Frager. Jared has great points. We need to be proactive about what is a solution. This needs to be part of this plan we just talked about and bored us to death with. Needs to be part of that plan. Entrepreneurship was on that little chart. It's an opportunity. We're gonna have a need for power. I ain't living without electric. I'm not gonna be Amish. So what can we do? Can we do a committee? Let's put our heads together, not work against each other, but work together. And
That's a good word.
I mean, we need to, it's a problem. I know it is.
Well, you know,
So-
at the end of the day, we're all gonna write that bigger check.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your opinion is on wind, solar, or ants living in your backyard. When they say they're gonna have to raise the rates because they can't afford to build out the network, and it takes such a long time to build the distribution network to improve it from where it is now. We're just way behind the game. We're all gonna pay, and
Yeah.
again, not advocating for solar or anything, just saying that we're gonna have to figure something out.
Yeah, like now, right? I mean, we got to start a plan.
I
I'm
wasn't.
not advocating for any
Yeah.
one type of power. If a plan was filed next month to double the size of Beacon Line, would we have the same outcry of people, oh, it's gonna be noisy, oh, it's gonna be this, oh, it's gonna be that? I don't know. But there might be a need, and it might take up 20 acres. Is that a fair trade?
I guess that discussion is great. I think
Right.
that's
I
a
think-
good discussion. That's the best solution. I mean, hands down for it. If we're moving our property values aside and moving, it's gonna be on three sides, you know what? Whatever, it is what it is. But
discussion is what's important of both
Yeah.
sides of,
Yeah.
I'm willing, my mind is willing to be changed based on what you present to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I ask in return, because we each have
Yeah.
our own
Yep.
professions and our own education and resources that, just like on this board, we look at certain people on this board for guidance of, hey, this is your world. What
Yeah.
do I need to know? So, because we live here too.
So, yeah, I guess, yeah, we just need to work together on it, I guess, so investigate what best options is best, so. I think you guys are all doing a good job, and I think you care about the community. We appreciate you. Thanks.
I'm Brooke Cushing. I live in northern Wells County. I'm on 500 North, just to the east of Road 1. According to the most recent Wells County solar map that I've seen, if this is still accurate, and I don't know whose leases have been pulled, haven't been pulled, which companies have walked away or not, but according to this map, my house is going to be surrounded on 3 sides. I have 3 1/3 acres. I'm surrounded by farms all the way around. Part of the reason why I bought that property to begin with is because I'm surrounded by corn or bean fields, depending on what year it is. We wanted to live in the country. That's why we bought that piece of property. And now, actually, it's been a couple years now that we've been trying to fight this whole thing of being surrounded by them. So, I'm not against solar power, I'm not against wind power, I'm not against nuclear or anything else, but it doesn't make sense to me why you would put acres and acres and acres of solar panels on really good farm ground. We have some of the best farm ground in Wells County of the entire United States. And that, I mean, that's true of a lot of other places here, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, some of them. When you look at the map of the United States as far as where most of the food is produced, we're like right in the middle of it. And this is one of those places where a lot of our food gets produced. Now, I'm not saying that there's going to be a food shortage or anything like that, because obviously most Americans eat too much anyway, and we're all fat. So too much food, too little food, that's not really the whole argument here, but it doesn't make sense to take productive farm ground. Ooh, why are we getting an echo now? It doesn't make sense to use that ground to fill it up with a bunch of solar panels when that's not the best use for that. There's plenty of other unusable ground just in our county. If you look at that map and where all these solar companies are trying to put all their arrays in, it's all on prime farm ground. None of it's in industrial, commercial, any of that kind of stuff. It's not in those areas. They're not looking at that. Why? Because they don't have to do as much work. Because a lot of this farm ground, because of where we are, we're pretty flat. So they're looking at, well, we don't have to do a lot of work. It's already vacant and it's mostly flat, depending on where it is. But in some areas, like in ours, if there's a rise here or a slope there or whatever, they're going to come in and they're going to flatten that out as much as possible, which means they're going to yank out the topsoil, which means they're going to take that topsoil, they're going to sell it off, and they're going to make money off of that topsoil that we've been building for however many generations of farmers that have been there. They're going to make money off of that topsoil. They're going to rip it all out so they can make it nice and flat, put all their stuff in, and then 20, 25, 30 years from now, whenever it is, when they finally say, okay, we're done, or when the company goes bankrupt or whatever happens, what are they going to do? They're going to go along and they're going to pull all the panels out. That's true. According to those agreements, they say, you know, they're going to put it in the plan saying, you know, whatever the end of the term is, that we're going to turn it back to the way it was. Well, what they don't say is, oh yeah, all those pillars or all those pylons that they drilled into the ground that are 12 feet deep, am I right about that? I don't remember the depth. 10 or 12 foot pylons that go into the ground that they drive in, that they mount everything to,
There's nothing in there that says they're removing those things. Now, you tell me how you're gonna farm that with all those things in every 10 foot throughout that entire field in however many acres they want to cover. You tell me how you're gonna farm that later. So I just had to say my piece. I'm not against solar. I just don't think it makes any sense to put it on farm ground. There's plenty of other good places where it could be put. I understand that the energy crisis is a big deal, and we are behind the power curve when it comes to that. But a lot of that is coal plants that have been being shut down for the last decade. So that's made power more expensive. It's not as prevalent now because of the fact that they're shutting those down. They've been trying to shut down all these other things for so many years, and I don't want to go into, it's not, obviously it's a political thing, and depending on which side of the aisle you are on, you see those things differently, but we have less power available now because of the fact that we have fewer coal plants that are pumping out that electricity. So that's part of the reason why we have a shortage right now. And I don't think that putting solar panels in, which are less efficient because they stop working as soon as the sun goes down, or if we got heavy cloud cover, they're not working at the highest rate that they normally are. It just doesn't make sense that that's the answer, other than the fact that they're getting all kinds of subsidies that's coming from us to start with, because we all pay taxes. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just a case in point, and we do value your opinion, but I would like to remind the public of how this board voted at the last meeting. Just be aware of that and remember what that board did. That's all I got to say about that. So sometimes this is a hard seat to sit in, and we feel like we're getting yelled at a lot. It's okay. We still love you. We're here for the county, and we're here for the benefit of everything. So I would just encourage you to remember how we voted and what we've done. You're welcome. Aw. Okay, in light of time, I think I can close the public comment section. So, in benefit of time here, I'm going to go ahead and close off the public comment section, and we will move on to your next item.
I will adjourn, or ask that, and you can read it on your own time.
Okay. Mike has taken the high road for us, so I would need a motion to adjourn.
First,
I need a second. All in favor, right hand.